Have you ever stopped to wonder what happens when an entire generation of women is told they don't need men, that they can have it all on their own terms, and that traditional roles are nothing but chains from a bygone era? What if I told you that the consequences of that message aren't just playing out in real time, they're accelerating into a full blown crisis that's leaving millions of women isolated, broke, and utterly unprepared for the harsh realities ahead? Stick with me through this entire script because by the end, I'll lay out exactly why this winter isn't just coming. It's already here. It's brutal. And for the first time in history, there's no cavalry of men riding in to save the day. If you're getting value from this kind of no holds barred breakdown, do me a solid, smash that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe right now if you want more great Angry Guy content dropping regularly. Also, fellas, if you're serious about protecting what you've built, safeguarding your assets, and actually growing real wealth in this chaotic crypto space, you need to check out Angry's Crypto Academy. That's where I teach you step by step how to buy, sell, and trade crypto the right way. No hype, no gambling, just solid strategies that work. The link is in the description below, so pause this video real quick, click that link, and get enrolled today. Your future self will thank you. All right, let's dive straight into this because the numbers don't lie, and neither will I. We're living in a moment where the well being of women, particularly in the West, has plummeted in ways that should alarm everyone: men, women, society as a whole. But instead of honest conversations, we get deflection, blame shifting, and more delusion. Let's start with the cold, hard statistics that paint a picture no one in mainstream media wants to touch. Female happiness has been on a steady decline for decades. Back in the 1970s, women reported higher levels of happiness than men in almost every major survey. Fast forward to today, and that trend has completely reversed. According to data from the General Social Survey, which has been tracking American happiness since 1972, women's self reported happiness has dropped sharply since the early 2000s, while men's has either held steady or slightly increased. We're talking about a gap that's now wider than it's ever been in the opposite direction. Loneliness, epidemic levels. The CDC and multiple health organizations have declared loneliness a public health crisis, but dig into the numbers, and it's disproportionately hitting women harder now. A 2023 study from the Making Caring Common project at Harvard showed that young women are experiencing extreme levels of persistent sadness and hopelessness at rates far exceeding young men. Suicide attempts among adolescent girls have skyrocketed. Mental health prescriptions for anxiety and depression are overwhelmingly filled by women, over 70% in many categories. Financially, women are getting crushed. Despite all the talk of empowerment and girl bossing, the gender pay gap narrative falls apart when you control for choices like career field, hours worked, and time off for family. But even beyond that, single women are accumulating wealth at a fraction of the rate of single men or married couples. Home ownership among single women under 40 is stagnating or declining in many major cities, while debt, student loans, credit cards, personal loans, is piling up faster for women. Why? Because the independent woman lifestyle is expensive when you're funding it solo. Rent, utilities, food, healthcare, all without the economies of scale that come from pairing up. Health outcomes are tanking too. Obesity rates, autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue, all rising faster among women than men in the post feminist era. Fertility rates have crashed to historic lows, and IVF failures, miscarriages, and regret stories are flooding private forums that the algorithms try to suppress. And let's not even start on dating and relationships. Apps have turned the marketplace into a nightmare for the average woman. The top 10% of men are monopolizing attention, while everyone else gets crumbs or nothing. Birth rates are collapsing, marriage rates are at all time lows, and the percentage of women aged 30 to 40 who have never been married has exploded. This isn't random. This isn't just life getting harder for everyone. This is the direct result of a decades long cultural push that severed women from the very structures that kept them stable, protected, and grounded. Strong men, traditional families, communities built around mutual reliance. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Here comes the part where I blame women entirely. No, not entirely. But accountability has to start somewhere, and right now it's nowhere to be found. The movement of men walking away, MG Tahayu, men going their own way, or as I call it, MWA, men walking away, is not the cause of this collapse. It's the symptom. It's the rational response to a system that punished men for being men, that weaponized family courts, that demonized masculinity at every turn, that told boys they were defective girls, and that turned dating into a minefield where one wrong word can end your life. Men didn't abandon women out of spite. Men adapted. When the risks of marriage became insane, 50+% divorce rates, mostly initiated by women, with men losing kids, homes, and half their wealth, men said no thanks. When false accusations became a cultural weapon, men said, keep your distance. When being a provider was mocked as toxic masculinity while still being expected, men walked. And here's the uncomfortable truth that no one wants to say out loud: women were never designed biologically, evolutionarily, or socially to thrive completely independent of men. Harsh? Yes. Reality? Absolutely. For tens of thousands of years, human survival hinged on sexual dimorphism and division of labor. Men hunted, protected, built, invented, fought wars, and took the dangerous jobs because they were bigger, stronger, and more expendable. Women nurtured, gathered, maintained social bonds, and raised the next generation because they were the bottleneck of reproduction. This wasn't oppression, it was optimization for survival. Men's utility and protection allowed women to exist in a bubble of relative safety. Men built the roads, the power grids, the sewers, the defenses against invaders. Men took the night shifts, the dirty jobs, the risks that kept civilization running. In exchange, women provided the emotional center, the home base, the reason to build it all. Remove men from that equation, and what do you have? You have women trying to fill roles they were never built for, burning out twice as fast, while simultaneously losing the protection and provision that kept them from having to face the full brutality of the world. Men, on the other hand, can and always have been able to survive just fine without women around. Monk modes, all male militaries, explorer crews, prison populations, oil rigs, mining towns. Men create functional societies with zero women present. Crude? Sometimes. Effective? Undeniably. Women trying to create all female societies, it rarely lasts, and when it does, it's either subsidized by male labor elsewhere or collapses into drama and dysfunction. Look at any attempt at feminist communes in the 70s. They imploded within years. A society without its men isn't a society. It's a wasteland. Men are the infrastructure. Men are the defense. Men are the innovation engine. Strip men out, either by killing them in wars, imprisoning them en masse, or driving them away through cultural contempt. And what remains crumbles. History proves this over and over. Want to destroy a nation? Target its men. Flood it with pornography and video games to pacify them. Poison them with bad food and endocrine disruptors, medicate their natural energy out of them in schools, shame them for their instincts, turn their women against them. And the fastest way to destroy men? Use women to do it, convince women that men are the enemy, that they don't need them, that independence is the ultimate goal, that riding the carousel in their prime years won't have consequences, that the state will replace husbands, that feelings trump facts. Because here's the thing about most modern women, the majority of their lives have been spent in delusion, not stupidity, delusion. There's a difference. Women are, by nature, more driven by emotions than men. This isn't an insult, it's biology. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. The female brain has more connectivity between hemispheres, stronger limbic system responses, higher oxytocin drives. Emotions are their operating system. And emotions are fantastic for social bonding, empathy, child rearing, but they're terrible for objective reality testing. Men center women because men run on logic, facts, and outcomes. Does this work? Will this kill me? Can I build this? That's male thinking. When a woman starts spiraling into emotional chaos, a good man grounds her. Baby, calm down. Here's what's actually happening. Here's the plan. Without that anchor, women become slaves to their feelings. Whatever feels right in the moment becomes their truth. Reality gets filtered through the lens of emotion until it barely resembles reality at all. Delusion sets in deep, and society has spent decades feeding that delusion. You go, girl. You deserve the best. Never settle. Have fun in your 20s. Kids can wait. The right one will come when you're ready. Men are trash anyway. Then 35 hits. The eggs dry up. The good men are taken or opted out. The career that was supposed to fulfill everything leaves her empty. The cats and wine don't hug back. And suddenly, the delusion cracks. But here's what makes this winter different from any before. For the first time, women have spent their entire lives being bailed out of every bad decision. Previous generations, hardship built resilience, wars, depressions, famines. Women faced real consequences and adapted because they had to. But modern women, daddy bailed them out. Then college boyfriends, then the state with loans and welfare, then employers with endless second chances, then simps on apps paying their bills. Accountability never required. Consequences always delayed or deflected. So now, when the real hardships hit, loneliness that can't be swiped away, finances that OnlyFans can't fix forever, health issues from decades of birth control and stress, a world that's getting objectively more dangerous. They have zero muscle memory for dealing with it. They panic, they lash out, they blame men. The same women who screamed, I don't need no man, are now demanding men fix everything. The same women who chose the bear in that hypocritical hypothetical are now wondering why no one's there to protect them from the actual bears, metaphorical and otherwise. The same women who traded husbands for government checks are shocked when the government runs out of other people's money. Kevin Samuels, God rest his soul, tried to warn them, ladies, winter is coming. He said it calmly, directly, with love even. And they laughed, they mocked, they called him misogynist. Well, guess what? Winter didn't come. It's here. It's been here. And it's about to get a whole lot colder. No husbands to turn to, no strong communities. Those were destroyed by individualism. No families, birth rates collapsed, divorces skyrocketed, just the state, which is broke, and a society that's fracturing at the seams. Years of Me Too extremism that made normal male attention criminal, years of kill all men rhetoric treated as jokes, years of teaching boys they're toxic, years of punishing masculinity at every level. Now masculinity is scarce. Now protection is scarce. Now provision is something women have to do themselves, and they're discovering they hate it. The irony is thick. The very tactics women use to control men, shaming, guilt, insults, gaslighting, the need to be right at all costs, don't work when men aren't engaged anymore. Men have walked away. The audience is gone. The performance falls flat. Women are boxed in, trapped in a prison of their own design, with the keys thrown away by their own choices. And the hardest pill to swallow, men aren't coming back to save them. Not this time. The rent is due and the bailouts are over. Let me take you deeper now, because what we just covered was only the surface frost. The real blizzard is raging underneath, and most people refuse to even look out the window. We need to talk about the specific mechanisms that turned an entire generation of women into emotional nomads wandering through a desert they were told was a paradise. This didn't happen by accident. It was engineered step by deliberate step over 50 years. And the worst part, the architects of this disaster were not shadowy men in boardrooms. They were other women, academics, activists, media personalities, politicians who sold their sisters a beautiful lie wrapped in the language of liberation. It started in the universities. Second wave feminism told women that the nuclear family was a prison, that motherhood was a trap, that marriage was legalized servitude. They replaced the word husband with oppressor and convinced millions of young women that the only path to dignity was total self sufficiency. Fast forward 3 generations, and we now have women in their late 30s and early 40s waking up to discover that the promised land of having it all was actually a barren cliff edge. Let's walk through the timeline like a crime scene, because that's exactly what it is. In the 1960s and 70s, the birth control pill and no fault divorce laws arrived at the same time. Suddenly, sex had no consequences and marriage had no permanence. Women were told this was freedom. What actually happened was that the sexual marketplace flipped on its head. A small percentage of high value men gained access to far more women than ever before in human history, while average men were pushed to the sidelines. Female hypergamy, already a biological reality, was supercharged. The result? Women in their sexual prime rode what we now call the cock carousel for a decade or more, chasing the top 20% of men who would never commit. By the 1980s and 90s, women were flooding into the workforce in record numbers, again, sold as empowerment. And yes, many women genuinely love their careers. But the data shows something darker. The majority of women who chose full time corporate careers did so because the economic model of the single income household was deliberately destroyed by inflation, taxation, and wage stagnation. Two incomes became mandatory just to achieve what one income did in 1965. Women didn't storm the workplace because they all suddenly hated homemaking. They were forced into it by a system that needed their labor and their taxes. Then came the 2000s and 2010s, social media, dating apps, and the final detonation of any remaining accountability. Instagram and TikTok turned every woman into her own PR agent. Filters, angles, and ring lights created an illusion of perpetual youth and beauty. Validation became a dopamine drip. Likes replaced love. Comments replaced commitment, and the entire culture began gaslighting women into believing that their sexual market value was a flat line that never declined. Add to that the explosion of third wave and fourth wave feminism that taught women that all men were potential predators, that masculinity itself was a pathology, that even the most benign male behavior was microaggression. Men were told to cry more, to share their feelings, to be soft and vulnerable. And when they did, women lost attraction overnight. Because biology doesn't care about ideology. Women still crave masculine polarity, strength, protection, dominance, even the ones who scream the loudest that they don't. By 2020, the stage was fully set. The average modern woman had been told from kindergarten through graduate school that she was perfect exactly as she was, that any failure was the fault of the patriarchy, that she could postpone marriage and children indefinitely, that the state would take care of her, that her value was intrinsic and eternal. And now in 2025, the bill has come due in ways that are impossible to ignore. And let's go back to the statistics, but this time let's make them personal. In the United States right now, over 60% of women age 18 to 30 report symptoms of moderate to severe anxiety or depression. That number was under 20% in the 1980s. Antidepressant use among women aged 30 to 44 has tripled since 2000. Therapy has become a lifestyle accessory, not a rare intervention. Fertility clinics are overflowing. The global IVF industry is projected to hit $40 billion by 2027, almost entirely driven by women who waited too long. And the success rates for women over 38 are brutally low, often under 10% per cycle. Millions of women are spending their life savings on procedures that statistically won't work because they were told you can have a baby at 45 if you freeze your eggs. The fine print that egg quality still plummets after 35 was buried under empowerment slogans. Homeownership for single women under 35 has fallen off a cliff in every major Western city. In London, Sydney, Toronto, New York, Los Angeles, the places where independent women congregate, the average single woman cannot afford even a one-bedroom apartment on her salary. Rents have doubled while wages have barely moved. The boss babe aesthetic looks great on Instagram, but it doesn't pay the bills when you're 38, single, and staring at a $4,000 studio apartment. Credit card debt among women aged 25 to 40 is at all-time highs. Luxury handbags, brunches, international girls' trips, filler, Botox, these are not investments. They're consumption masquerading as self-care. And the debt is compounding while the assets at youth and fertility are depreciating daily. Pet ownership has exploded as a substitute for children. The dog mom and cat mom phenomenon is not cute. It's tragic. Veterinary spending in the US now exceeds what Americans spend on actual human babies in some demographics. Alcohol consumption among women has skyrocketed. Wine mom culture went from meme to epidemic. Binge drinking among childless women aged 30 to 50 is now higher than among men in the same age group for the first time in recorded history. And the loneliness, God, the loneliness. The apps promised endless options and delivered endless disappointment. Women swipe through hundreds of profiles and match with men who ghost, who want casual sex, who disappear. The moment commitment is mentioned, the few decent men left have either checked out entirely or raised their standards to the stratosphere because they finally realized their value in a marketplace where female obesity, attitude, and baggage are at historic highs. The bear versus man meme from last year was the perfect encapsulation of the delusion. Millions of women proudly declared they would rather encounter a wild bear in the woods than a random man. Think about that for a second. They genuinely believe the average man is more dangerous than a 600-pound predator that kills humans on sight. That level of irrational fear and contempt didn't come from nowhere. It was cultivated. And now those same women are shocked that men don't want to protect them anymore. Because men heard the message loud and clear. You are the enemy. You are Schrodinger's rapist. Your attention is harassment. Your protection is patriarchal control. Your provision is toxic masculinity. Your very existence is the problem. So men did what rational actors do when faced with hostility and risk. They withdrew. Passports are being applied for in record numbers by young Western men. Thailand, Colombia, Philippines, Eastern Europe, places where women still smile at men, where femininity is celebrated, not criminalized. The passport bro phenomenon isn't a fringe movement anymore. It's a migration. Gym memberships for men are at all-time highs. Crypto wallets are filling up. Businesses are being started, skills are being learned, men are investing in themselves because for the first time in decades, they realize no one else will. And women, they're doubling down on the delusion. Where have all the good men gone? They ask, while swiping left on any man under 6 feet, making under six figures without a perfect jawline. The entitlement is breathtaking. The truth is brutal. The vast majority of modern Western women have priced themselves out of the very market they claim to want. They want a man taller than them, stronger than them, richer than them, more educated than them, who earns more, who will love them unconditionally, while they offer conditional love at best, who will accept their past, their debt, their cats, their trauma, their antidepressants, their only child level emotional dysregulation, all while bringing absolutely nothing traditional to the table. No cooking, no nurturing, no peace, no submission, no femininity, just demands. And men looked at that deal and said, hard pass. The result is the largest pool of educated, single, childless women in human history, concentrated in the years when their fertility is collapsing. We are watching a demographic extinction event in real time. And the state that promised to replace men, it's broke. Social security is insolvent. Pension systems are collapsing. Welfare states across Europe are cutting benefits. The taxes required to fund said single mothers and childless cat ladies into old age would bankrupt nations that are already drowning in debt. There will be no government bailout this time. The men whose productivity was supposed to fund the fantasy have checked out. Many have left the country. Many more have simply stopped producing at the levels required to keep the system afloat. Why grind 80 hours a week when the fruits of your labor go to women who hate you and children who aren't yours? This is what collapse looks like from the inside. Not tanks in the streets, not mushroom clouds, just quiet withdrawal. Men walking away one by one until one day the lights flicker and no one knows how to fix them. Because here's the part no one wants to say out loud. Civilization is a male construct maintained by male sacrifice. Every road you drive on, every wire that brings power to your home, every pipe that brings water, every truck that delivers food was designed, built, and is still maintained overwhelmingly by men. Men who take risks, men who work overtime, men who die on the job at rates women can't even comprehend. Remove male motivation, and the whole thing grinds to a halt. Women were never meant to run this machine alone. They were meant to be the heart inside it, the reason it was worth running at all. When you tell men they are no longer wanted or needed, they eventually believe you. And when they stop caring, the heart stops beating. We are already seeing the early stages. Crime exploding in cities because young men have no stake in society. Infrastructure crumbling because the trades are empty. Birth rates in free fall because men refuse to bring children into a world that hates them before they're even born. And women, they're left holding a bag of delusions that gets heavier every year. The rage phase has already begun. Watch any viral street interview clip from the last 2 years. The seething contempt when women are asked basic questions about what they bring to the table. The immediate pivot to shaming men for even asking. The tears when reality finally pierces the bubble. But tears don't fix fertility clocks. Rage doesn't pay rent. Hashtags don't keep you warm at night. The winter Kevin Samuels warned about isn't a season, it's a new ice age. And for the first time in human history, women will have to walk through it completely alone. No fathers to call, no husbands to lean on, no sons to protect them in old age, because many will never have sons at all. Just them, their wine, their pets, their debt, and the echo of their own choices bouncing off the walls of an empty apartment. And the worst part, the part that keeps me up at night, is that many of them still don't see it coming. They're still posting I'm the table memes, still saying my standards are high because I'm a queen, still believing that Prince Charming is just one more dating app profile away. He's not. He's in Medellin lifting weights on a balcony overlooking the mountains, dating a 24-year-old who cooks for him and calls him Papi without irony. He's in Thailand, running his online business from a beach villa, surrounded by women who smile. He walks into the room. He's in Poland, engaged to a feminine, family oriented woman who couldn't care less about his follower count. He walked away, and he's not coming back. The rent is due, and the blizzard is here. And this time, no one is coming to shovel the driveway. I want you to really sit with this for a second. Picture the average 38-year-old single woman in a major Western city right now, today, November 19th, 2025. She has a master's degree, probably in something that sounded empowering at the time: gender studies, communications, marketing, social work. She makes decent money on paper, maybe 80 to 90,000 a year, but after taxes, student loans, health insurance, and the rent on that overpriced one bedroom with the exposed brick that she posts on Instagram, she's got maybe $400 left at the end of the month before the credit card minimums hit. She wakes up alone. The dog needs to be walked before she logs into another Zoom filled day of meaningless corporate busy work that gives her no real status, no real legacy, no real purpose. She scrolls TikTok on the toilet and sees 22-year-old trad wives in Idaho baking sourdough for their 6'3" husbands who own landscaping companies and pay the mortgage in cash. The rage bubbles up, but she swallows it with an SRI, and a cold plunge she saw advertised by some influencer. She opens Hinge at lunch. The same 6 guys have liked her in the last month: 2 divorced dads looking for a stepmom, 1 poly guy in an open marriage, 1 finance bro who only sends voice notes about his Peloton leaderboard, and 2 blank profiles that are obviously fake. She swipes out of boredom, not hope. Her prompts still say fluent in sarcasm, and my love language is acts of service, doing the dishes without being asked. Friday night rolls around. The group chat with the girls is planning another Galentine's wine bar crawl that will cost $300 and end with her crying in an Uber because some 26-year-old bartender called her ma'am. She'll post the photos anyway: forced smiles, duck lips, the caption, living my best life, with the sparkling heart emoji. 200 likes from other women in the exact same boat, 0 from any man she actually wants. Saturday, she goes to brunch. The topic is always the same: men are trash, dating is dead, all the good ones are taken or gay or intimidated by strong women. They toast to independence while quietly calculating how many years of eggs they have left and whether they can afford to freeze them this year or if Bali is more important. Sunday, she does the meal prep dance for one, watches some true crime documentary about a woman who was murdered by her boyfriend, and falls asleep wondering why every man she meets is either a narcissist or a bum. She never once stops to consider that the common denominator in all her failed relationships is her. This is not one woman, this is millions. And the most terrifying part, she still believes the story. She still thinks if she just manifests harder, raises her standards higher, goes to one more sound bath retreat, does one more ayahuasca ceremony, the universe will finally deliver the 6'4" masculine feminist who earns 300,000, loves her body at any size, does half the housework without being asked, and is excited to raise another man's kid while she keeps her last name. That man does not exist. He never did. And even if he did, he looked at the current landscape and said, "Yeah, I'll pass." Now let's talk about the ones who are waking up. The regret is starting to leak out everywhere if you know where to look. Private Facebook groups with names like Spinster's Regret and Late Awakening Childless Women have tens of thousands of members posting anonymously about the soul-crushing grief of realizing it's too late. Women in their mid-40s sobbing over ultrasound photos they'll never have. Women who spent their 20s chasing hedonic highs, now staring at walls, wondering what the point of any of it was. The "I'm 36 and my fertility doctor just told me I have the eggs of a 45-year-old" posts are no longer rare. They're daily. The "I froze my eggs at 34 and just did my first round of IVF and none of them made it to blastocyst" stories are piling up. The I make 120K but can't afford a house or a baby on my own and no man wants me confessions are everywhere once you're past the public facade. And the coping mechanisms are getting darker. The child free by choice crowd is fracturing. A lot of them aren't child free by choice anymore. They're child free by consequence, and the mask is slipping. The bitterness is palpable. You can hear it in their voices when they insist they're happier than mothers. The eye twitch when a baby cries in public. The overinvestment in pets that everyone pretends is normal. The Wine Mom industrial complex is in full swing. White Claw sales to women over 35 are through the roof. Ozempic prescriptions for health while openly admitting it's to stay thin enough to maybe, possibly attract a man one day. The cosmetic surgery numbers are insane. BBLs, facelifts, fillers, until they all look like Bratz dolls with the same frozen expression of quiet desperation. And the state, the glorious state that was supposed to replace men, it's starting to push back. European countries are openly discussing tax penalties for childless adults. Hungary, Poland, Italy, governments are waking up to the demographic death spiral and realizing they can't fund pensions with a population that stops reproducing. The child free aunties who thought the government would take care of them in old age are about to get a very rude awakening when the money runs out and there are no young workers left to pay into the system. In the US, Social Security is projected to be insolvent by 2034. That's 8 years from now. Who's going to fund the retirement of 50 million childless single women who spent their prime earning years on brunch and travel instead of building families that create the next generation of taxpayers? Certainly not the men they spent decades telling to get lost, the immigrant communities they mocked for having too many kids and traditional values. Those are the ones who will inherit the countries. High fertility religious groups, Mormons, Amish, Orthodox Jews, conservative Muslims, are outbreeding the secular progressive class 3 to 1 or more in many areas. The future belongs to people who still believe in family, gender roles, and legacy. The cat lady meme isn't just a joke anymore, it's a civilizational epitaph. And the irony that keeps me awake at night, many of these women still have the power to change course. There are men out there, good men, solid men, men who would love and protect and provide, who would take a 35-year-old woman with a modest past and a humble heart tomorrow. Men who don't need her to be perfect, just pleasant. Men who would overlook the baggage if she brought peace, femininity, and genuine gratitude to the table. But most won't. The pride is too entrenched, the entitlement too deep, the delusion too comforting. They'd rather die alone with their standards than lower them 1 inch and admit they were wrong. So they will. Not all, of course. Some are waking up. Some are swallowing the black pill, deleting the apps, learning to cook, dressing femininely again, approaching decent men in real life with softness instead of suspicion. Those women will be fine. They'll find husbands, have babies, build beautiful lives. But they are the exception now, not the rule. The rest, they're going to ride this train all the way to the end of the line. Empty apartments, frozen eggs that never thaw into children, careers that peak at middle management and then plateau into irrelevance, friends who drift away as they pair off or burn out, holidays alone with Netflix and a bottle of Pinot, old age in a state funded facility staffed by people who don't speak their language and don't care if they live or die. That's the future for tens of millions of women who were sold the biggest lie in human history, that they didn't need men, that independence was superior to interdependence, that feelings were more reliable than facts, that consequences could be postponed forever. The winter isn't coming, it's here, that the blizzard is raging, and for the first time ever, the men aren't coming with shovels, hot coffee, and strong arms to carry them through it. They're on the beach in Colombia, or in the gym getting stronger, or building businesses, or raising families with women who never told them they were obsolete. The rent is due, the party's over, and the silence in those empty apartments is deafening. It's not the kind of silence you notice at first. It creeps in slowly, like the way the light fades from a room you forgot to leave. At 28, it was still easy to drown out with friends, with notifications, with another round of shots, and one day my person will show up. At 32, it got a little quieter. The group chat started having babies and buying houses in the suburbs. Suddenly, everyone's too tired for 11 p.m. voice notes. At 35, the silence has a weight to it. You can feel it when you unlock the door after work and there's no one to ask how your day was. The dog looks up, wags once, then goes back to sleep because even he knows you're not the center of anyone's world anymore. You start talking to yourself out loud just to hear a human voice. You leave the TV on for background noise even when you're not watching. You fall asleep to true crime podcasts because the sound of other people's drama is better than the sound of your own thoughts circling the drain. That silence follows them everywhere now. It's in the grocery store when they reach for the single serve lasagna and realize they've been buying the same one for 3 years straight. It's in the movie theater when they buy one ticket and the usher doesn't even bother asking if someone's joining them. It's at the doctor's office when the form asks for an emergency contact and they have to scroll too far down a contact list filled with people they haven't spoken to since someone's destination wedding in 2019. And the worst part is that the silence isn't empty, it's full of what ifs, full of regrets they swore they'd never have, full of memories of choices that felt empowering in the moment and now feel like slow acting poison. Let me paint you an even sharper picture. I want you to see one of these women 10 years from now, because that's where this road ends if nothing changes. She's 48. The Botox has started to look strange because the underlying muscle tone is gone. The filler has migrated. Her face looks puffy in a way that no filter can fix anymore. She still dyes her hair the same platinum blonde she wore at 29 because going natural would be giving up. She's on her third corporate job since the pandemic, each one paying a little more but meaning a little less. Her title has a lot of words: Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategy. But when she explains what she actually does at parties, people's eyes glaze over in 30 seconds flat. Her net worth is negative if you subtract the student loans that will follow her to the grave. She bought the condo at the absolute peak of the market in 2021 because rents were insane and a woman needs to own something. The mortgage is underwater. HOA fees went up again. The building is mostly Airbnb units and other single women in their late 40s who nod politely in the elevator but never invite each other over. Her mother is in assisted living now, and the bills are crushing. There are no siblings to split the cost because her parents bought the have it all lie too and stopped at one kid. The guilt is constant. Every time she visits, her mom asks the same question with that hopeful lilt: anyone special yet? She lies and says she's focusing on herself right now. Thanksgiving is a negotiation every year. Who gets mom? Who pays for the Uber from the facility? Who pretends everything is fine while carving a turkey breast meant for two that feeds eight because no one else showed up. She still goes on dates. The men are either divorced dads looking for a nurse with a purse or eternal bachelors who want someone to split the bill 50-50 and never mention moving in together. The sex is mechanical, the conversation is surface level, and both parties know within the first 20 minutes that nothing real is ever going to happen here. They still sleep together sometimes because the alternative is admitting that even casual touch is becoming a rare commodity. Her friends are in three categories now: the married ones who ghosted, the ones who became raging alcoholics, and the ones who moved to Florida to reinvent themselves and now post sunrise yoga photos with captions about healing my inner child. The group chat is dead. The last message is from 6 months ago, coordinating a birthday dinner that half the people flaked on. She adopted another cat, then a third. The vet bills are insane, but at least someone needs her. She calls them her babies, unironically. When people raise an eyebrow, she gets defensive and posts a TikTok about how pets are better than kids anyway because they don't talk back. She tried the sperm donor route at 41, spent $87,000 over 3 years, two chemical pregnancies, one miscarriage at 11 weeks that she still cries about in the shower. The Facebook groups for single mothers by choice are full of women just like her. Except the ones who actually succeeded all have nannies and family money, and their posts make her want to scream. And she voted for every policy that promised to support women and now watches in horror as her taxes go up again to fund benefits for teenage mothers and refugees, while her own retirement account has $43,000 in it and she's 48 years old. She still tells herself she's happy. She has to. The alternative is looking directly at the wreckage and admitting that every empowered choice she made was actually a slow motion self destruction sold to her by people who hated her civilization. And she's not alone. There are tens of millions more just like her, marching in lockstep toward the same cliff, still insisting the view is beautiful all the way down. The craziest part? Society is starting to normalize this dystopia. Articles in the Cosmopolitan and The Cut now openly discuss platonic co parenting apps where women match with gay men to raise kids without romance. There are think pieces celebrating 60-year-old women adopting infants alone. Retirement communities are being marketed specifically to childless professional women with names like The Encore and Silver Linings Village, complete with wine bars and therapy dogs. We are building gilded cages for women who destroyed their own nests and now demand that the rest of us pretend it's a palace. Meanwhile, the men they discarded are thriving in ways that would make your jaw drop. They're 45, jacked from years in the gym, debt free because they never got married or had kids they couldn't afford. They live in low cost, high freedom locations or in paid off houses in flyover country. Their passports are thick with stamps. Their businesses print money because they had no one to answer to but themselves for 2 decades. Their new wives are 29, feminine, fertile, and grateful. Their children, yes, actual human children, call them daddy in languages the exes back home can't pronounce. They don't hate women. They just finally learned to love themselves more than they loved the idea of saving someone who didn't want to be saved. And every once in a while, one of those men gets a message from an ex who finds him on Instagram. The tone is always the same, casual at first, then nostalgic, then desperate. Hey, stranger, saw you're in Thailand. Looks amazing. How have you been? Translation: I'm almost 40. My eggs are dying. My friends are gone. My youth is a memory. And I just realized the life I built is a prison. Please come back and fix it. The reply, if it comes at all, is polite but short, because these men have finally learned the lesson it takes most people a lifetime to accept. You cannot negotiate desire, and you cannot fix someone who still insists they're not broken. Some of these women will end up completely alone. Others will settle for the absolute dregs of the male population, men they would have laughed at in their 20s, because even a warm body that pays half the bills is better than the silence. A shocking number will pair off with other women in their 50s, not out of orientation, but out of sheer desperation for companionship and shared expenses. The Boston marriage is making a comeback, except this time it's not prim Victorian spinsters. It's former girl bosses who spent their prime years friend zoning every decent man who crossed their path. And when they're 70, frail, sick, and broke, they'll be warehoused in understaffed facilities paid for by taxes from children who were never born, cared for by immigrants whose cultures they spent decades calling backward for believing in family and gender roles. That's not hyperbole. That's math. The fertility window doesn't negotiate. Biology doesn't care about your LinkedIn profile or how many countries you found yourself in. The wall is undefeated. It always wins. The only question is whether you hit it at 80 miles an hour, still screaming, I'm the prize, or whether you see it coming and course correct while there's still time, and most don't. Most keep accelerating, and the silence just gets louder. Year after year, decade after decade, Satya, until one day the apartment is empty for good, the cats go to a shelter, the designer handbags get sold at an estate sale for pennies on the dollar, and no one is left who remembers her name. That's the real winter, not snow on the ground. It's the cold that settles in your bones when you finally realize that all the empowerment in the world can't buy back the years you spent running from the very thing that would have kept you warm. The rent is due. The blizzard doesn't care about your feelings. And the men who used to shovel the walk, They're sipping something cold on a beach somewhere, watching the sunset with a woman who never needed to be convinced that peace is preferable to power. All roads lead to MWA. The silence is deafening, and for the first time in history, no one is coming to fill it. What did you think about all this? Do you agree? Do you see it playing out around you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you liked the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.